So the people have spoken. Recently, I did an Instagram poll to see what should be my next tutorial on this channel, and you guys said that you wanted to learn about color grading. So I thought that in today's episode, I would teach you my whole color grading workflow and process in 3 simple, easy steps. But first, we've got to get to the office, and I'm not going to be taking the car because I need to work off my dad bod and ride my bike. Squeeze in through here, get my bike. Don't mind the mess, and don't judge me because everyone else's garages are just as messy as mine. And of course, safety's first these days because I am a dad, so we will be rocking a helmet while we ride. Another reason why I'm not driving our new car and trying to bike at all costs is because of this. That is currently our gas prices, €2.04 per liter. For all you American folk out there, that is about $7.50 per gallon. And that's cheap right now. It used to be €2.60 per liter. So I'm trying to save some money by bike riding to work and getting some exercise at the same time. A scorcher out there today. I think today it's supposed to get up to 27 degrees Celsius, which is unheard of here in Finland. Oh, and by the way, if you enjoyed the music from this whole intro, it's all from Epidemic Sound, and we'll be talking about that more later in this video. So like I said today, I'm gonna be showing you guys my cinematic color grading process in 3 simple and easy steps. Now, color grading is a difficult subject to teach about because it's so subjective. Everyone has their own different style or look that they like for their footage. Some people like having a really desaturated, moody look. Other people like to have a very saturated summer vibe. And people like me, I like to have warm, earthy tones. At the end of the day, there is no one right way to grade footage. It's really up to you to decide what you want the final product to look like. But I thought it would be helpful for you guys to see how I grade my footage, and hopefully in the process, you'll learn something new. Now, before we jump into my 3-step color grading process, I just want to forewarn you that color grading can't do miracles. And what I mean by this is that if you've got bad footage, you're gonna have a bad time color grading. Of course, with color correction, you can, bring back some highlights or some of the shadows or save certain kinds of footage. But if you've, exposed your footage wrong, that it's totally blown out, you've lost the highlights or you've crushed the blacks, there's only so much you can do. So the first tip I have for color grading is that you make sure you film your footage well by exposing, getting the right white balance, which will in turn make it easier for you to color grade your footage. By exposing your footage right and filming the best possible footage, you're essentially setting yourself up to have the best possible canvas to do your color grade. You wouldn't want a dirty canvas to start painting on it. You want it to be white, pure, clean, and that's the same with your video footage. You want it to be nicely filmed, exposed right, so that you have as much possibilities and flexibility in post to grade it. So for me, I'm filming with the Sony a7S III, and I'm using the S-Log3 S-Cinetone picture profile, which is the same color science as the Sony's cinema cameras like the Venice. I'm shooting with the log picture profile because I want my footage to have the most possible dynamic range and flexibility in post to grade. And if you've never heard about log before, log is essentially a picture profile that you can film with your cameras that's gonna give you the most uncontrasted, desaturated footage to give you that blank slate. The second thing I want to preface before we jump into my 3-step process is that I use LUTs for my color grading process. I use one LUT to get from the S-Log3 flat picture profile to Rec 709, which basically just means normal contrast saturated look again, and then I use a second LUT to get my color grade. Now, in no way do LUTs work as, one-hit wonders that you can just slap on the LUT and there we go, it's ready. First, you gotta be able to film the footage right, like I mentioned before, but second, you're also gonna have to go and color correct each clip to get it looking perfectly. But the reason why I do use LUTs is that it gives a consistent look to my footage. I could go and from scratch use curves and different tools to get the S-Log footage back to the normal contrast saturated look and then to create my color grade, but every time it's gonna look a little bit different and be done a little bit differently if I just manually did it. So by using LUTs, I can have just a consistent look through all my footage, and as well, it just saves me a whole bunch of time, so why not? We all know what it's like in this YouTube world. We're creating a lot of high quality content fast, so we want to do it as fast as possible. So not only to save time, but as well to have consistency in my grading, I use LUTs for my color correction and color grading process. So let's open up Final Cut Pro and let me show you my color grading process in 3 simple, easy steps. I'm sorry, I know that it's rude to disrupt the video, but I did promise you guys in the beginning of the video that if you're enjoying this episode's music, I'll tell you guys more about Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound is a long-term partner of this channel, and they are my favorite platform to find music for my videos. Artists like ELFL, Luptus Nocte, AGST, Sarah the Instrumentalist are just a few of the artists who are continually putting out amazing music for us creators to use in our projects. Epidemic Sound has both a personal and commercial plan, so if you're just creating videos for your social media channels, you can go with the personal plan, and that monthly subscription is going to cost you only €9 a month. And if you're creating client work and you're more of a commercial company, then the commercial plan is going to work for you, and it's only €19 a month, which is really a steal of a deal, because I remember when I first started in this whole filmmaking world, it literally cost anywhere from $200 all the way up to maybe $1,000 just to license one song. And now with an affordable monthly subscription, you're literally able to download unlimited songs and sound effects for your projects. So if I piqued your interest and you're not using yet Epidemic Sound, use the link in my description to get a 1-month free trial, which will give you the time to fall in love with Epidemic Sound, and I know you won't be disappointed. All right, let's now go to the color grading. All right, so here we are in Final Cut Pro. Here's footage that I went out and filmed this afternoon. Pretty epic looking, especially considering it was filmed in the middle of the afternoon at the harshest time of day. But I just played with the lighting and different lines to get some cool looking footage. Now, step number 1 is to get the S-Log3 S-Cinetone footage to Rec 709. And in fancy terms, that just means take that flat looking footage and get it to looking again contrasty and saturated. So what I do is I go and I add an adjustment layer. For some odd reason, Final Cut Pro doesn't come in with a built-in adjustment layer, so there's a lot of people who have created these plugins, and I'll make sure to link below the one I downloaded from. I forgot the name, but thanks again for people who just create amazing tools for us to use. So all you do is you just drag the adjustment layer on top of the footage, and then I go to Effects and write down here Custom LUT, and then I throw 2 custom LUTs on top, and I'll explain in a bit why too. But first, we're gonna use the first custom LUT to get it back from the S-Log3 S-Cinetone, the flat looking footage, to the contrasty saturated. So I have my own correction LUT. I haven't put these out for sale yet, but I'm working on them. So there we go, I put on my own correction LUT. If you want to get your hands on great correction LUTs, my brother Matty as well sells them, and I use his as well all the time, so I'll link those below. But this one is the one that I'm using right now. But as you can see, it just takes the flat looking footage and then puts contrast and saturation back into it. Here's another clip of me. You can see the flat to the contrasty saturated. Here's the studio, again, from the flat to contrasty and saturation. Now, there are a lot of different kind of correction LUTs out there. Some add more contrast, more saturation, some add less. A lot of times this is a little bit of a preference thing, but these are the ones that I like using right now. All right, that's step number 1. It wasn't as daunting as maybe you thought it is to film with a log picture profile. There's so many amazing correction LUTs out there, so it's as simple as just throwing the LUT on there, add the correction LUT, and voila, we go from the flat to the contrast saturated look that we want. Now, the second step is to add your color grade. Now, I have my own color grading LUTs as well. I love using the Cine Perfect Skin Tone, so we're gonna throw that onto the second LUT. That's why I added 2 LUTs from the beginning. Now, right away, you look at that footage and you're like, whoa, Teppo, that doesn't look that good. You're looking very warm and very green, and I know, don't worry. The great thing about LUTs is that in Final Cut Pro and Premiere, you can mix with the strength of the LUT. Now, right now, it's at 100% or 1.0, and I never use that 1. I usually use my Sony Perfect skin tones at about 0.7, maybe 0.6. So here now we can see the before and after. What my LUT does is that it creates that nice earthy tone for your footage. It adds warmth and maybe a little bit of a green tint to the footage. Now, when I look at this footage right now, I can immediately see that it's a little bit too warm and it's a little bit too green. And that's where we're gonna jump into step number 3, and that's color correction. Like I said earlier, you can never just throw on a LUT to your footage and just expect it to look good right away. I think a lot of people, they buy people's LUTs thinking that they're just gonna be this, miracle worker that you just throw it on your footage and you're done. You're never done right away when you put on your color correcting LUT and your color grading LUT. Then comes the color correcting process. And it doesn't take too long, but when you do this step, the final step, it's just gonna make the footage go from okay to awesome because you're really tweaking it to look perfect with those LUTs that you're using. So let's go to the beginning, for example, here. And I like to do all the color correction on each clip, and then on top on the adjustment layer, I have the correction and the color grade. So here, before and after, we have the color correction LUT, and we have my Sony Perfect Skin Tones LUT. Now, when I look at this footage, okay, it looks a little bit too dark, so I'm gonna lift up the shadows a little bit. I'm gonna bring down the highlights down a little bit. And when I look at it, it looks a little bit too warm. So I'm just gonna go to temperature and just try 4,600. Okay, that looks pretty good, maybe a little cold for my liking, so I'm gonna go 4,800. Okay, that's a little bit too warm, so I'll go to 4,700. It's a lot of back and forth, just testing it out. Then as well, I think it's a little bit green still, so I'm gonna add some tint. We're gonna go to the plus side. That's maybe a little bit too purple. There we go already. So now with the color wheels, which I'm using most of the time, I can already go before and after. Here, it's too green, too warm. Go here, that looks really nice. Next clip. Again, same thing. It's a little bit too warm, so I'm gonna go here and bring down the white balance, the temperature, make it a little bit colder. And again, a little bit too green, so we bring it down. And then let's play a little bit with the highlights and darks. I actually kind of like the exposure for this shot. So this is how we're color correcting, before, after. Now, if I look at the first 2 clips, it's this one to that one. I think that's already looking pretty great. We won't do these clips because they look pretty similar situations. Let's go to the studio shots. Again, the studio shots, these are looking way too warm and green, so we're gonna bring down the warmth a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of magenta to the shots. Maybe lift up the shadows a little bit just to get it not as dark. And then we're gonna bring down the highlights just a little bit. And then again, we're gonna play with the warmth. Already, look at that, before, after, looks a lot better. And once I've done with the color wheels, the steps to get the white balance and the exposure right, I then go through all the footage with skin tones in mind. So for example, this shot, maybe I want my skin tones to be a little bit more saturated, or if I notice they're a little bit too green or too reddish, I can tweak this really easily by adding hue and saturation. And here you can just, with the eyedropper, drop it on my skin, and then I can go there and be like, okay, I want the skin to look a little bit more saturated, and then I can see with the hue as well, okay, that's too green, that's a nice little orange reddish. Again, here we go, before, after, just bring a little bit of life back into the skin tones. Again, we can try playing the skin tones here. We go here and we can add some saturation, see if we want to add some more. Nice. And then we go with the hue and then play again here. And look at that. These are very subtle differences, but doing these color correction tweaks, once you've added the color correction LUT to get from S-Log to Rec 79 and your color grading LUT, it's gonna really make your footage match and be consistent, and as well just look as best as possible. So yeah, that's my 3-step simple process for color grading. Let's go look again and just see kind of what happened in this whole process. So I'm gonna turn off the effects for here. And I'm gonna turn off the LUTs. So here is my original footage. I have my correction LUT, then I add my color grading LUT. It's like, okay, that's not looking that great. Then I do the color wheel and hue saturation, and voila. That looks pretty good. In my opinion, it looks pretty nice. Then, for example, here, same thing. Let's turn off the LUTs. Let's turn off the color correction. So we have Rec 709, nice contrast saturation. We have our look, and then we add the color wheel, and voila. Look at that. That's as simple as it is when it comes to my color grading process. Hopefully seeing the behind the scenes, under the hood, my color grading process helps you guys as well figure out how to grade your footage. Don't worry if you're not filming with Sony cameras. Each camera system has their own different color correction LUTs, so you can just figure out which color correction LUT works for the camera that you're filming, but then you can follow step 2 and step 3 just like I did in this video.